Mike, thanks for joining us today. Let's first take a look back at when you first joined London Scottish back in September last year. You initially joined as backs coach, but your sort of role evolved into sort of more a director of rugby role. How have you found your time at London Scottish since last September?
It's been lively. It's a good club. It's a great club. It's a club with real values. I think we're exceptionally fortunate to have the board that we have, and the sponsors that we have, and the support. And they're true rugby men, and that's what you need for the spirit of the club in order to be successful. And I kind of connected to that, and I've enjoyed my time being the backs coach, and then obviously it evolved more as the season progressed, and kind of transgressed into the likes of being more involved in the recruitment, reporting to the board, working with the board, working with Kenny, and allowing the likes of James Buckland the freedom to do what he loves to do, which is on the grass and making the players better.
When did the process of recruiting for the new season start? Because we're well into pre-season now, and we've got 31 players on board, so we're really organised for the new season. So when did that kind of start for you?
January. Assistant coach in title, but the reality was that we made a conscious decision back in January when we were looking at the pros and the cons in the squads and how to strengthen and what we needed to do to evolve as a rugby team and the brand of rugby that we wanted to play. I took responsibility for the recruitment and driving that forward and running that process. And that allowed James to focus on the rugby, and then I would supplement on the rugby side with the attack play and the backs. But obviously that put an immense amount of strain on my time, hence why we've evolved and needed to evolve the off-pitch infrastructure in the off-season, and we've been very fortunate in acquiring and getting Pete Richards to join the coaching team. They're highly talented, along with James, and hugely ambitious. Ultra competitive, both of them, which bodes well for our squad and bodes well for the club.
It's been quite a turnover in players, and half the squad has left. Was that necessary to take the club to the next level?
Yes. In all honesty, and sometimes it's tough, but those kind of decisions have to be taken, and that's no disservice to the guys that have been before, because they were a huge credit to the club and they served the club well. But with where this club wanted to go, the evolution and the brand of rugby that James and Peter see as the vision for the club, we needed to create a more resilient, gritty squad with real character and a hard edge that was able to compete not only on the sunny days and the pitches at Richmond Athletic Ground, but also in the dark places that we have to travel to in the midst of winter amongst the rain and the wind. And we needed a more complete, rounded squad that was able to compete in all conditions, on all surfaces, at all times of the year, and hence why we had to make the changes that we did to enable us to do that.
What signings have excited you? Obviously, we've got all of them. We've got a lot of pace obviously in the back division. We brought Pete Lydon from Stadford, Matt Williams has come in from Moseley. So it's going to be an exciting back division, and I guess that's something that you'll be particularly keen on watching next season. Yeah,
we're very fortunate really. We've got good young halfbacks, and we've added to that with the likes of Matt Higgs, but in Jamie Stevenson, Dan Newton, Lee Miller, we had some real potential, and those guys did well last year. We needed to bed them in, and we've got huge faith in those guys moving forward. Adding to the midfield with Pete Lydon was important to give us to something else to complement the likes of Ollie Grove, PJ, as well as Mike Donegan. The back three, we needed to bring more pace and guile into our back three. So adding the likes of Eric Clarsons and Matty Williams gives us both of those ingredients already, with the likes of Miles Mantella and Jim Thompson. But the big overhaul was up front. We all know about our back row last year was fantastic. We've retained them, and we've added to that with the likes of Fred Silcott, an out-and-out seven who is hugely competitive over the ball, and will be a very all-encompassing, fearsome character to complement the likes of Bestie, Brighty and Sprout and Chevy. But when you look at the front five, I think we needed resilience, we needed grit, And we've got that in abundance with the second rows. We've got clear 4s, we've got clear 5s. We've got Phillips, we've got Tui Samoa, who are out and out 4s. They're hard nosed, they're hard running. They can do line up. They can also slip into the back row to spread the load. And then we've got in Braconian and Josh Taylor Brown, 2 out and out 5s. They can run the line out. They're big boys, both in height, and then the likes of Phillips and Ty are big in girth and depth. So we've got huge amount of potential in the second row. I look at the front row, and we always talked about trying to create up and coming young props together with some guile and age and some wiseness. In Ben Prescott we have that. Mark Irish retiring was a blow for the club, but we wish him well in his future endeavours, and he was a huge part of what we were trying to create. But we've been able to supplement that with the likes of Mark Lilly, James Hallam, and Lovejoy. These are young guys that are aspirational and have the raw potential and the power and the size to kick on. And then we move to the tight head. We've got big Stuart Maguire and Max Maven, 2 big boys to complement Ben Prescott. So we've got size and we've got power and we've got potential in the front row. And at hookers, we've got Adam Kwasniewski, one of the form hookers I think in the Championship, and had done a fantastic job last year from returning from injury. And we've added to him the likes of Ross Donegan and David Cherry, 2 up and coming hookers who've got something to prove. But again, hugely resilient, gritty. They're the key ingredients, they're the characteristics that we're looking for from our front 5 and indeed our whole team. We want resilience, we want that grit, that determination, that honest hard work ethic, that spirit, that collective belief as a squad that wherever we go we can challenge and compete with anybody.
And the target is the top 4, but it's easier said than done. It's going to be a tremendously competitive league next year. Bristol and Worcester to start with, they'll be the heavy favourites to reach the finals. It's going to be a very competitive league, isn't it? And looking forward to the first game of the season. It's going to be a real test against Rotherham. It's 4th v 5th at the Athletic Ground. It's a cracking game to start with.
I think the league will go up a notch again this year. Rotherham outstanding last year. I think they typified getting a pint and a half out of a pint. Lee Blackett, fantastic job, and no doubt he has paid the price because he's lost a lot of players to the Premiership, and he will be rebuilding and no doubt putting a very competitive, aggressive squad together, which will be right up there competing. So that will be an immense start to the season. But you've still got the likes of Leeds, Cornish Pirates, Jersey are rebuilding, they'll come again. Plymouth are rebuilding, they're coming again. You've got Moseley with their best ever finish last year. All of these teams will be up there. Nottingham won't want to be the wrong end again. So I think that the Championship quality will step again, the competitiveness will step again, and we'll need to raise our game again, because you either, if you stand still, you regress. So we've got to progress, we've got to get better, we've got to evolve, and it makes for a very exciting season. But we can't get away from the fact, I think Bristol and Worcester, the resources they have, they're Premiership resources, and I don't like to talk about money and things like that, but it does help, and it means that you can have bigger squads which enable you to rotate and rest and manage your squads far better than those of us that have less resource and have smaller squads.
Yeah, someone who may well have to manage is a certain Mark Bright, who's now 35. He's the club captain once again, and he's signed a new contract, so another 1-year extension, and also he's been selected for the England Sevens Commonwealth Games squad. Some achievement.
Oh, yeah, but fully deserved. And I think he is the DNA blueprint for this club, both in terms of the way he goes about his business off the pitch, but also the way about he goes his business on the pitch. Hugely humble off the pitch, always has time, hugely respectful to everybody. Be that the T-boy intern or be that the CEO, he treats everybody the same and he expects the same respect back. And when he goes on the pitch, he does everything he can to ensure that his team and his mates have everything from him, and that's exactly what we expect and want from the likes of Mark Bright, and that's why he is the player he is. That's why England came knocking to see whether or not we would allow him to play in the Commonwealth Games. the decision was Mark's, really. You know, we were never going to stand in his way. He fully deserves the opportunity to play international rugby, and at the Commonwealth Games. What an experience! And he's earned the right. He's forced his way in there. That's down to him, and you know, it kind of typifies the man.
How do you think he'll do?
I think he'll do well if he's used in the right way. I mean, I know Brighty from Oldie in terms of bringing him into the sevens world with the Samurai, and I've had him for the last 3 or 4 years with the Samurai. And the reality is you have to use Brighty in the right way. You need to give him the freedom to express himself in attack. He's a fantastic offloader, and he will attract defenders, and then it's about people running off him. Defensively, that's where he'll be a little bit fragile. He'll be worried because he'll be worried about all these quick boys. But he's a smart man. He'll use his angles well, and as long as he just believes in his defence and his team's defence, he won't get exposed. He's too clever a player, and I think he'll cause havoc. And he's just got to hang in there when it gets harder at minutes 11, 12 and 13. But you know, he's 35 in age, but you know, not in his mind. He's still playing great rugby. He's running around, he's like Peter Pan. He's 25, 26 in his head, I'm sure. And you know, long may it continue, because he's a credit to this club. He's the DNA, he's the blueprint. I want 32 Brighties, obviously all not number 8s, but I want that type of mentality and that type of character, that grittiness, that resilience, that self-belief, that team ethic across the board.
Just finally, speaking of sevens, obviously you've taken on the role as head coach at the US Eagles as well. You're well known for your pedigree in the sevens game. Are you looking forward to that challenge?
I am. I mean, you know, it's as we know, my role at Scottish as DOR is a role that will allow me the freedom and the opportunity to do other things. And both the USA and London Scottish have been fully supportive and allow me to do the two things in tandem. Neither will suffer, rest assured on that front. But I am hugely excited to be back on the circuit and test my wits against the likes of Simon Amor, Gordon Titchins, to renew some old rivalries. Maybe even Ben Ryan, who knows? But you know, it's a huge challenge and it's a huge privilege. But you know, rest assured, from the Eagles' perspective, you know, the way that we'll run that performance program is how I've always run the performance programs. And that will be in a certain way, but that will not compromise again what we're doing at London Scottish, where I've got that on-pitch infrastructure in place to allow London Scottish to operate and make sure the modus operandi is working how it needs to. Yeah. I'll give the leadership, be the figurehead, of course, and I will be ensuring that the ship is settled and where it needs to be. But we're in a very good place at London Scottish at the moment, and we just need to continue to build on that.
It's going to be exciting for you for both club and country next season. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.